NTA International News.
Federal government takes decisive step to end extreme poverty in Nigeria. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo advocates need for leaders to imbibe principles of justice and governance. Information Minister says music remains a potent tool for mobilization and shaping government policies. Thank you for joining us on the news on NTA International. I am Ifeanyi Okafor. And top on the news, President Muhammadu Buhari has described the security and economic cooperation between Nigeria and Benin Republic as very beneficial to both countries, noting that it should serve as a model for other countries. Receiving the outgoing ambassador of Benin to Nigeria, Mr. Muftau Laleye, at the State House, Abuja, President Buhari promised to improve the historic relations between both countries on other key strategic areas for the benefit of their citizens. The president said he was very pleased with people-to-people integration between Nigeria and Benin, adding that his administration will continue to pursue and promote friendly relations with neighboring countries. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, he commended the outgoing ambassador for working hard to improve relations between the two countries in the past 8 years, describing his long period of service in Nigeria as a mark of the confidence reposed in him by his country's leaders. In his remarks, Ambassador Laleye said that he succeeded in his mission in Nigeria because of the strong support he got from his country's past and present leaders, and commended President Buhari for stabilizing relations between Nigeria and Benin, a relationship he described as brotherly. Now, in the meantime, President
was established by intellectuals to fight injustice and corruption. He stressed the need for present crop of leaders in Nigeria to take a cue from the founders of the Caliphate, who laid foundation for tolerance and justice.
Sheikh Usman bin Fodio fought against unjust leaders. In one of his writings, he equated a thief, a corrupt leader, with a monkey. He wrote, and I quote, when you find a man with a tendency to steal surreptitiously, he is in the same class as the monkey, end of quote.
The celebrant Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar, charged Nigerian leaders, especially state governors, to focus on executing people-oriented projects instead of engaging in white elephant projects. Governor Sokoto State Aminu Waziri Tambol commended the Sultan for his good leadership.
Since your assumption of office as chairman of the National Economic Council, you've been doing very greatly well in ensuring that our economy is brought back to the track.
A prolific scholar, More Last, University College London, underscores the immense contributions of Sokoto Caliphate towards the corporate existence of Nigeria. Imam of Kano Muhammad Sanusi II says the symposium was organized to enlighten Nigerians on the literary contributions of founders of Sokoto Caliphate. The symposium featured presentation of papers by scholars of repute. In Sokoto, Usman Mohammed Binji, NTA News.
The federal government has formally declared its commitment to applying decisive measures towards ending extreme poverty in the country as a deliberate attempt to keep faith with the poor. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this at a parley with participants of the Senior Executive Course 38 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. He said it is impossible for his administration as a people's government to ignore the poor, who made great sacrifices for the change agenda. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The participants of the Senior Executive Course 38 of the National Institute were in the State House to formally present to President Muhammadu Buhari the making of his administration, but a consequence of bad management of the economy in the past couple of decades.
The average cost of each Nigerian barrel of oil was $100 per barrel. When we came, I asked, any savings? I was told there was no saving. What have you done on agriculture, power, rail, roads, nothing. You know it more than I do. How many of the trunk A roads from A to B are still good enough? Why that money? This is the type of thing we, the Nigerian elite, are doing to our own country. Persuade them to be Nigerians, please.
President Buhari said the report presented by the news participants has given him reason to strongly believe that the challenges are surmountable.
The administration is committed to finding lasting solution to our economic structural imbalance. Let us have faith in our great nation that we will come out of this recession vibrant and strong.
The National Institute, which so far graduated about 1,500 participants, was conceived in 1979 to serve as the nation's foremost policy think tank that will conceptualize innovative policy initiatives and strategies critical for national development. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And turning to legislative matters, Senate President Bukola Saraki said the role of civil society organizations in the formulation of the budget cannot be overemphasized, as the public budget remains a key fiscal policy for bolstering economic development in the country. This was at an interactive session between the Committee on Diaspora and Non-Governmental Organizations on Nigeria's budgeting systems. National Assembly correspondent Ifeanyi Ezumba reports.
The interaction focused on the 2016 budget performance and the proposed 2017 budget. Senator Saraki stressed that public engagements such as this is germane to development of a responsible budget framework.
We as the National Assembly have tried to foster an interactive engagement platform where we can engage the CSOs on matters related to the budget of our national economy.
So you consider that the participation of CSOs could strengthen
unilateral, arbitrary and unauthorized creation of positions of executive directors in FEMA and its general operations. In the process, the committee members raised critical issues of concern on the poor condition of many federal roads across the country and its attendant consequences.
There are lamentations about the deplorable state of our roads, in Nigeria, which have become death traps because of potholes, other accidents and high traffic. You have the money now. You have been given the money, so we expect that you should award so that our roads should be maintained.
The agency pointed to inadequate funding and the delays in the procurement process as challenges being faced by FEMA.
We have been waiting for money to come before we complete our procurement process. We have gone very far, and in fact the first phase we have completed the procurement process. Our major problem is this cash backing. Funds were released, but we've been advised not to use the funds yet until we get proper clearance.
The investigative hearing is expected to awaken consciousness of FEMA on its responsibility of road maintenance, as well as re-establish collaboration with the Committee on FEMA for effective service delivery. From the National Assembly, Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the ministry is in the process of providing lasting solution against the estimated billing system by power distribution companies. It was while receiving the House Committee on Power on oversight visit. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Aminu now reports.
To continue in the power sector.
Committee Chairman Daniel Asuko also seeks to have a convincing document on the status and performance of the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company under the ministry. Other issues raised were on the effort to ensure provision of subsequent electricity increment and the need to ensure total blockage of leakages in the power sector. In Abuja, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Stay tuned for more reports after the break.
Hear the call of change, stand up. Nigeria, change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make me go. It's 34, so let it change begin from Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
NTA International News. Who expressed satisfaction with what Evergreen Company is doing, said his ministry will support Evergreen in preserving old works for posterity's sake. He commended the ability of Evergreen Company under the management of Femi Esho for preserving songs that dates back to 1904. Earlier, the managing director of Evergreen Company, Femi Esho, told the minister how they have strived to preserve music of yesteryears that are at the verge of going extinct.
The power of music cannot be quantified. So we don't want our music to go totally into extinction.
Femi Esho told the minister that presently the company has collected over 500 musical works made by different Nigerian and Ghanaian artists. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
The people of Ubuwa in Warri South local government area of Delta State have benefited from free medical program by the Nigerian Navy. Nigerian Navy Command, Nigerian Navy ship NNS Delta, Commodore Joseph Zumve says the exercise tagged Medical Rhapsody is part of the Navy's corporate social responsibility for communities within its area of operations. Defense correspondent Isaac Nkuma reports.
The Medical Rhapsody is a directive from the Chief of Naval Staff to all naval units to reach out to host communities as regards healthcare delivery, especially to communities without health facilities. Flagging of the exercise, Commodore Joseph Zumve promised the residents that the program will be sustained with referrals to Navy Hospital Warri for severe cases. He, however, solicited the people's cooperation in safeguarding oil installations in the area.
They should realize that attack on oil
Sharing Forum, organized by the Federal Ministry of Finance in collaboration with the Africa Development Bank at the State House, Abuja. Finance and Economy correspondent Cliff Ayoze reports.
The Vice President believes there is a positive correlation between investment in infrastructure and economic growth. He says National Infrastructure Master Plan indicates that Nigeria's current infrastructure stock is at about 20 or 25%, and by 70% short of international benchmark. To meet this target, Nigeria, he says, requires $25 billion annually in the next 10 years, and partnering with the private sector will enhance government's effort in infrastructure development.
It was felt that a partnership with the private sector, which has quite a lot of resources, would help also to bring the amount and the scale and volume of resources you need to upgrade the infrastructure in the country.
For some ministers and top government officials at the forum, public-private partnership will mark a turning point in diverse areas of the nation's development.
We've been talking about PPP in water supply delivery, water supply for the past 20 years or so. And we think now is the time. And that's why we have been trying to accelerate the water bill.
Large demand in infrastructure in the area of roads, in the area of power, almost all the sectors. But we don't have the resources to meet all of them.
The amount of money required to carry out all those projects are beyond the resources of government, especially at this moment.
Some experts at the forum expressed the need for sincerity of purpose and proper coordination of the partnership in order to achieve expected results.
The preparation of a project, the integrity of its financing.
This will see the currency fall by almost 50% against the dollar. The Egypt's Apex Bank, who has also increased interest rates from 11.75 to 14.75%, in a statement said the move is part of reforms aimed at boosting confidence in the economy. The initiative is also in order to assess a $2 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to fund its 11.5% budget deficit. And the British pound on Thursday recorded a marginal gain against the dollar following a High Court ruling that the UK government must seek parliamentary approval to trigger Brexit. The pound rose by just 124.5 against the U.S. currency. Market watchers say the reaction is an indication that businesses in the UK are more comfortable with the country remaining in the European Union. And that's our package at this time. I am Chukunonso Nwabweze.
And for some stories on the global scene, Uche Mwizu is our guide.
Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe and his South African counterpart Jacob Zuma have launched a binational commission set up by the two countries to strengthen economic and political ties. Report indicates both Zimbabwe and South Africa had 38 agreements in areas ranging from trade to defense. They, however, expressed commitment to seal and implement outstanding agreements. Away from Africa, England's High Court ruled Thursday that the government requires parliamentary approval to trigger the process of exiting the European Union, a measure up for Prime Minister Theresa May's plan for Brexit. The court also said it had granted the government permission to appeal against the ruling before the court, which set aside December 5 to 8 to deal with the matter. Meanwhile, May's government says in a statement that it was disappointed in the court's judgments. And about 240 migrants believed to be from West Africa are reportedly drowned in two shipwrecks off the coast of Libya. The report says the UN Refugee Agency was told the news by survivors brought ashore on the Italian island. More than 4,200 migrants have died making the dangerous journey across the Mediterranean, bringing to fruition the earlier warning by the UN that 2016 could be the deadline.
Boxing's most famous politician, Manny Pacquiao, is bent on proving that he remains in the sport's leading pound-for-pound list ahead of his upcoming world title clash with WBO welterweight world champion Jesse Vargas in Las Vegas Saturday night. The two fighters went head-to-head at the Wynn midweek, with Pacquiao hoping to bring his A-game to beat the rising American ace, who insists that all pre-fight focus should be on him as champion instead of the 37-year-old Philippine. With Sports Update, Kenan Imabodike, NTA News.
It's time for a quick check on Friday's weather prospects. And that concludes the news on NTA International. I am Ifeanyi